We're talking about Russell Wilson, of course, Eric. He said on Wednesday this week, he was asked about the locker room. He was asked about Melvin Gordon a little bit. And he said that it's good to have some edge in the locker room. He said that the championship teams he's been on have some edge.
Yeah, I think he said, I've never been a part of a quiet championship team.
Yeah.
And Swanson can fact check that exact wording, but it was essentially that you need some dogs.
Yeah, and of course that team in Seattle that won Super Bowl 48, that team had some edge.
Yeah, and I'm guessing because he said teams that maybe he's also referring to what?
Maybe like a college team, a high school team, something.
I believe he's referring to like a Wisconsin team that won the Big Ten and went to the Rose Bowl.
That's what I mean.
Because I know there are some people that were like, well, he's only won one championship.
No. He's probably in high school. He's probably been very successful. I mean, he was asked about his hamstring, and he goes, when you play some sports like I do, football, basketball, baseball,
yeah,
you deal with this kind of stuff.
It's kind of a silly question.
I was like, what about track and field?
Yeah.
That's what made me, I was like, what about wrestling?
What about it? Wrestling.
Wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and not just Melvin. I believe that was in reference to Jerry Jeudy.
Ooh, yeah.
Standing on the sideline there, looking a little bit animated. He could have been saying, hey, Melvin, what do you want to go do after the game? Like, there's a lot of options. We could, like, go get some treatment, or we could grab a bite to eat.
I think that they were probably going to fly back to Denver.
Right, but I'm saying after that.
Oh.
He was like, what do you want to do when we land?
Oh, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he was like, hey, what kind of card game do you want to play in the plane? Like Go Fish?
Yeah.
Gin Rummy?
So, like, those, that could have been what he was talking about, but it also could have been like, why didn't they throw me the ball?
Could have been.
Or like, what's going on here?
Well, first of all wide receivers are open on every play.
Yes.
So that's the first thing.
And sometimes they look for the ball and sometimes they don't.
Jerry has had some issues with the timing of
the looking for the ball.
Yeah. You would think that a wide receiver would always be looking for the ball. Not the case.
On the same page. But I think in general that the question, and Brandon McManus himself raised this as like the only guy
The kicker?
The kicker.
Oh, got it.
He said, everything seems great right now. What happens when we lose a few games in a row?
When did he say that?
In training camp.
Oh, so he knew they were going to lose 3 games in a row.
I think it was more of like, you're going to go through some adversity.
Oh, okay.
How do you respond then? And I think there's concern maybe among the media, among fans, because Nathaniel Hackett is kind of an upbeat coach. He's a positive guy, players type coach. When things don't go well, how long do guys stay bought into that? And so that you see Jerry Jeudy on the sideline, you see Melvin Gordon looking disappointed, and you wonder, hey, how long are guys going to keep buying into this, buying into the positive message that Russ is spreading? And so I think it was interesting that Russ said, hey, it's not a bad thing to be disappointed that you're losing. And Nathaniel Hackett said the same thing. Everybody's frustrated here. If everyone just pretended that everything was great, that would probably be more of a problem. And so obviously you have to fix it. And Russell Wilson said, I like the quote at the end of his press conference, winning heals all wounds. And so we got to go win. But I don't think it's a huge, if everybody just acted like it was sunshine and daisies out there, you'd be more concerned, I think, because this is a problem. That's
a classic saying, sunshine and daisies.
Yeah.
That's what I go to all the time. Sunshine and daisies. I like that. Do you think that Russ should have some edge to him? Because he also is very positive. He says edge is a good thing. Do you wish that he would get a little bit more upset? Because after even some of these last tough losses, he's taken accountability. He said, okay, this one's on me. After the Colts game, he said that. But he does have this sort of, we're going to get through this adversity, and when we do, it's going to be beautiful. And he has that positive outlook. Do you wish that occasionally he would show some of that more, some frustration, just like something that's a little more human, maybe?
I mean, well, I don't want to say he's not human. I don't think.
Well, because I think that he's got to be frustrated by this.
Yeah.
Do you wish he would show that a little bit more, or do you think, hey, that's for behind closed doors? When I talk to the press, when I'm out here in public, I'm this way.
I think he has shown some frustration. It was clear after that Colts game that he was frustrated and that he hadn't played well enough and put it on himself. And even after this last loss, he got up to the podium and by his – it's all about kind of like the perspective. So Russ coming up there and saying, hey, that's on me. I got to be better. This isn't good enough. Or coming up to the podium after the Chargers game and saying, hey, we got to get this right. This is not what it's supposed to look like. That sort of thing. When you compare that to his normal podium perspective, that is showing frustration. That is showing, kind of disappointment or expressing emotion. I don't think he's ever going to get up there and go full Shelby Harris after a loss. I mean, that's just not who he is. But Shelby Harris, and I know we're talking about a player that's not on the team anymore, but a guy who is animated in good times and like says crazy stuff then is probably going to say, be really emotional after a loss. Russell is very even-keeled always, and so even him saying, hey, this is not good enough, we got to get this fixed, this is on the offense, that to me is, his way of showing frustration. The rest of it, the yelling, the screaming, if that happens at any point, that doesn't need to happen in the media. I think he's been in this business long enough that he knows that's for behind closed doors. If you have a problem with how a receiver, Russ was never asked about KJ Hamler throwing his helmet. Mm-hmm. But Russ doesn't need to go out in the press and say, man, that's unacceptable by KJ Hamler. I'm assuming they talked about it. I don't know that for sure, but I would guess they chatted about that. And however he handled that internally, it didn't become a bigger deal. And so you can have these guys that show frustration, but I also think you need your quarterback to be that pillar, that stable guy, kind of be the force that you can count on. And you do need him to believe that things get better. Because if Russ gets up there and is like, man, this isn't working. Like, this is not, we're screwed.
Well, he doesn't need to say that, but yeah.
The rest of the team is probably like, oh, well, this is bad.
Yeah. But I do think that if you look at some of the other great quarterbacks around the league, there is a way that they show emotion that Russ is just a little bit different than they are. And as long as that is authentic, I think that if that's who he is, then he should be who he is, So if that seems like how he's always handled himself. So that to me leads me to think that is who he is. He doesn't want to be fake and be all animated. But you do see some other quarterbacks around the league.
I mean, you're talking about Tom Brady, right?
No, I just think everybody shows their emotion a little bit differently. I mean, you would see Peyton Manning get upset. You would see, I think you've seen Aaron Rodgers get upset. You see some of these other great quarterbacks show emotion in a different way than Russ does. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. I'm just saying some guys do show it a little bit more than others. But I think the big thing is to just be authentic.
Yeah, you don't need Russ to come to be, screaming in his offensive line's face or throwing tablets the way Tom Brady does. That's Brady's way of showing emotion and expressing himself in a game. You look at guys like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, even when things aren't going well, those guys have a more calm, reserved personality where you don't see those guys coming off the field and freaking out.
Yeah.
Even Aaron Rodgers.
Joe Cool.
Yeah. Even Aaron Rodgers, sometimes on the sideline he gets a little, there's that thing of him chucking the tablet over his shoulder. But in the press, they lost last week to.
Well, he's very zen. They lost to the Jets.
No, the week before that when they lost to the Giants in London, he was like, it's fine.
Yeah, relax.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
Relax.
That's been his personality his whole career. Relax. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
And, so Russ doesn't need to just start screaming and yelling for the sake of people being like, oh, now Russ cares. Like, that means he cares. This guy deeply cares about getting this right. And I'm sure it's eating him up that the Broncos have not played very well offensively, but he doesn't need to be someone that he's not just for the sake of the cameras.
What about what he actually said? Do you agree with him that Edge is good? Maybe it's not coming from him, but some of the other guys in the locker room, you need a little bit of that?
Well, I think you've got it. It's good from the offense because if the offense was just okay with the way things were, that would be a problem. And I think there are times when they need a little bit of a kick to get going. I think that's probably one of the areas where we haven't talked enough about missing Tim Patrick is not just that he was a really good receiver, but he was kind of the emotional, some guys called him the heartbeat of that offense, of that wide receiving room. Tim had like a kind of a nasty streak to him, or he was he would get fired up. He punched a guy in the Raiders game. He'd catch a touchdown against the Chiefs and go crazy. Like, that's kind of the emotional guy that you need. And I think not every game, but there's been a couple of games where I think Tim would have said, guys, let's get this going. And so I do think they missed that a little bit. So you need the edge. And again, if people were just like, oh, we're fine, this is fine, we're 2-4, it's fine, that would be a big problem. And I think that the guys in the locker room realize that this is an issue. And so, yeah, the edge at this point is good, I think.
Yeah, but they don't really have that guy who does those types of things.
You need Cortland to be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to think about who would have that type of a personality to just like really
on offense.
Yeah,
it's got to be Cortland because it has to be a guy that's done it. Because if KJ Hamler's got a fiery personality, but he can't go scream at the offense because he has 4 or 5 catches this year. It doesn't have the same weight. Cortland's made a Pro Bowl, and I know that's not Cortland's personality. It doesn't seem like he's a guy that's going to keep his head down. He's going to work. He's going to lead by example. But I think, and Justin Simmons said it starts with leadership. I think some of these guys that are used to leading by example might have to start doing a little bit more in terms of being vocal. Yeah. Russ is always vocal, but Justin Simmons, Cortland Sutton,
it's just hard because you want them to be their personality. And those guys, Cortland and Justin Simmons, they're not that yeller and that edge guy. Like, there is no Aqib Talib in that locker room.
Well, Bradley Chubb, I think, is
he's probably the closest guy.
Yeah, and I think he'll let you hear it if you need to.
Yeah.
But with those guys, I mean, sometimes when people that aren't normally like that yell or send a message, you take it even more seriously because you're like, this is not who this guy is.
Do you think Russ has done some of that behind closed doors?
I'm sure, they meet all the time. They still spend a lot of time together outside of the normal meetings. I'm sure that Russ has talked with these guys. I'm sure Nathaniel Hackett has talked with these guys. I mean, it's certainly not for a lack of effort that these things are happening. It just hasn't quite worked. But I'm sure they're doing everything they possibly can. They just got to figure it out quickly here because difference between if you want to make this work, if you want to have a chance here, you got to get things going really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and this was something that Russ said after the game, he was asked about just how he played and everything, and he brought up the beginning of the game and said something to the effect of, that's how this is supposed to look.
Yeah.
This is how the offense is supposed to look. I think that he's talking about him getting out of the pocket, making that play to Jerry Jeudy, him stepping up in the pocket, finding Greg Dulcich there. What did you think about that? Because it kind of struck my ear because I think that there's been a lot of... Did you like that one?
That was a good phrase.
Yeah, you like that one? Because there's so much talk about, hey, what is this Broncos offense? What is its identity, Aric? I love talking about it.
You do.
I love that.
You love nothing more.
But I do think that one of the big issues has been trying to mesh what they want to do with what Russ has done in his past and with what Nathaniel Hackett has done in his past, and also with the NASA scientists coming in, trying to get these guys all on the same page.
Yeah.
So for Russ to come out and say that's what it's supposed to look like, that was interesting.
Well, I think he's in part saying that like scoring points is what it's supposed to look like. But what they did on those drives was go a little bit faster. They hit that big play to Jerry Jeudy and then boom, right back to the line, take another shot down the field. We've talked about kind of the ineptitude of this offense, and how they've struggled. There's some false stats floating around about how it compares to a Paxton Lynch-led offense.
Vince Swanson, fact check.
I couldn't find that tweet again, so I don't know.
Oh, weird. Yeah. Maybe it was deleted because it was wrong. Anyway, when you've watched this offense, I know they're not scoring points.
Well, do you want to say what the Paxton Lynch is?
Sure. There was a tweet or
people talking about it.
They suggested that Paxton Lynch as a starting quarterback averaged more points per game.
The team did.
The team did than a Russell Wilson-led offense.
So on that pure statement is true.
Your statement is true.
If you look into it a little bit more.
If you look into it, you would find one that there were several defensive touchdowns
for Paxton
that helped. And listen, I'll let you keep I'll let these people keep the defensive touchdown. The more interesting thing, Phil, is that in one of Paxton's starts,
which he only had 4.
only 4, he was benched or suffered an injury that kind of led to
some tears.
He scored 0 points. Trevor Siemian, of course.
Cats guy.
Came in, led the Broncos to 14 points. Heroic effort. That gets
off the bench. They were like,
I've never seen anything like it.
He's like, me?
Never seen anything like it. That was the season, of course, where the quarterback got benched like every week. A different quarterback got sent away. Those 14 points count toward a Paxton Lynch start. So if you take that out, it's not a true stat. But some people like to just say things.
Okay, well, we cleared that up.
Okay. When I watch an offense like that, the Paxton Lynch offense, or I watch, the 2018 Broncos with Case Keenum, or you watch the Joe Flacco with this Broncos offense.
You had a lot to choose from.
I could keep going, really. Brandon Allen with this Broncos offense. The point totals might be similar, but they are
better.
Yeah, in some cases. There are things that this offense can do in terms of the big play and moving the ball quickly that these other offenses just have never been able to do. I mean, you look back to last year, Phil, this offense to score touchdowns, think back to that drive in Kansas City. It was like a 16-play drive. That was the only way the Broncos could possibly move the ball. They had to convert 3 4th downs, and then they get down to the
Herbert. They did the Herbert.
Yeah, and then they get down to the 1 yard line, and they don't score any points.
That's true.
But like that was how that offense had to operate. There was no big play ability, and so when I watch this offense, it's just confusing. In my head, it's confusing because I'm like, you have the ability to throw a 30-yard pass to Jerry Jeudy, and then on the next play, throw a bomb to Greg Dulcich. You have the ability at the end of the first half with there were 50 seconds left or something like that. That's what we've been talking about for years. The Broncos have not had that ability if there's 45 seconds left on the clock to go get points from the 20-yard line. Boom, big play to KJ. Boom, next snap, 11-yard gain to Jerry Jeudy, I believe. Kick a field goal, get points.
Should have been a touchdown, but
you still got points. The Broncos have not had that since Peyton Manning was in his prime. And so it's so confusing that they have that ability and you watch it and you think, wow, that's so much better. Like the first quarter of the Chargers game, you're like, that's way better than anything I've seen in years. And then for some reason, it can't be sustained. And that's where the confusion is because it's not, when you're talking about what it can look like, when it looks like that, it's better than it has been in a long time. And I just don't know what the issue is with keeping it going. But that's the frustrating thing is that it's not, you talk about how bad it's been and people are like, this is worse than it ever was over the last 5 years. Well, no, when it's good, it's actually a lot better. But the bad is also a lot worse. And so there's no middle ground right now.
It sort of reminds me of like during lunchtime and I open up a nice sparkling water.
Yeah.
The first couple of sips, it's like really nice. I'm like, it's very sparkling. There's a lot of carbonation and stuff. It's really good.
Yeah. You're appealing to the common person right now by talking about your sparkling water.
By the end of lunch, it's like all the carbonation is gone.
Wow.
And I'm like, why can't the carbonation sustain all the way through my lunch?
But when you're trying to eat 3 plates of food, it takes a while.
So when I get to the end, I'm like, what happened? This was so delicious. Why can't you be like the first couple sips?
Yeah, but the Broncos have had their metaphorical carbonation at different points in games. Like against the 49ers, there was no carbonation early, and then boom, at the end, you're like, why can't you just do that the whole game?
Yeah, that was confusing, huh? But that one was sort of like dessert. Like the whole meal was not great, but then there was a cookie or something.
There has not been a game yet where the Broncos have just been inept the whole game.
No, they've always had some sort of a spark.
Some sort of a flash. Maybe it lasted just 1 or 2 drives, but they've had it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, and just because I think the comparisons are a little bit ridiculous, in the past there's been whole games or whole weeks of games where it's like, and they can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean it is a little bit confusing why they can't play this way the whole time.
But I think as people talk about, is this working? Is this sustainable long term? Does Russ still have it? I think when you see those drives, to me, I think, okay, well, it's clear that that potential is still there. They got to find a way to maintain it and sustain it. But
I would say like the game is sort of a game of adjustments, right? So you're doing one thing, it's working well. There's something changes. They start bringing pressure.
Yeah.
He was asked about Russ was the A gap blitz, and how come he didn't see that? And he just said it was a perfect call by the defense. There's some of those things. I think some of the puzzling things are because you see some of these analysts out there, they breaking down the film. They're like, this is basic stuff that is confusing why Russ isn't being able to identify it. I think everybody, us, national analysts, maybe some of the coaches are a little bit stumped too. Like, what's going on here? Why is this not all just working?
Yeah. I mean, I think Russell Wilson knows more about playing quarterback than Dan Orlovsky does.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, I think so too, but it's not just Dan Orlovsky. I mean, there's a lot of people who are saying, look, these are things that you identify pre-snap,
Orlovsky's been the one that's like, this is high school stuff.
He's been saying that.
He's been
saying that.
Yeah. Little,
but
it's a flair for the
though.
dramatic.
It is. But that makes good TV.
It does.
He's very good at what he does, Dan Orlovsky. We should have him on the show.
Yeah.
Could be nice.
I'm like, you are really good at picking up blitzes.
He ran out of the back of the end zone.
You know where the end zone is, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's off the hook for that now that Jimmy G did it. So we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Redact. But I wonder, do you think that Russ is capable of playing outside of the pocket and doing those types of things with this hamstring injury? Do you think that is something that the Broncos will be like, look, if you're ready to go, we need you to play like this. Let's do that. I mean, listen, and people don't want to hear this. I suspect that the Broncos offense is not going to click and score 35 points this weekend. I think that it's going to be another struggle, and that's in part because the Jets have a good defense.
Quinnen Williams.
Their front four is really good. They've been getting pressure with just four. They don't blitz a lot. I think they have like one of the lowest blitz rates in the league, but they get home with 4 pass rushers. Sauce Gardner is really good on the outside. So they're going to be hard to play against anyway. And then when you add in Russ, who I'm assuming is going to have his mobility be limited if he plays at all, it's not a recipe to go score 35. And so I think the Broncos are going to play this game conservatively. I think they're going to try to stay in it, win it late. This has all the makings to me of another 13-10, 14-13,
16 points, I think is what the Broncos score.
16-14 type game.
Yeah.
But to find some success, I think you're going to have to choose wisely when you push Russ out of the pocket. You're going to have to run the football. I mean, if you can't run the football in this game and it comes down to Russ scrambling around and making plays, I don't think you're going to have very much success with this injury.
Swanson, can you look up how Sauce Gardner got his nickname? Sauce.
Sure, I'll take a look.
Because I know that Nathaniel Hackett, he likes juice.
Yeah.
They got Sauce.
What do you think Sauce is going to do this weekend?
Well, last weekend, he at Lambeau Field grabbed a cheese head and put it on his head after the game.
Correct.
And was celebrating.
Yep.
Now, like, say this week, say he has a nice game.
Uh-huh.
I don't even want to say this, but what if the Jets win? He might grab, Shannon Sharp had that little Broncos.
Yeah.
Shannon Sharp's going to be at the game.
Yeah.
Broncos are celebrating the Super Bowl 32 victory.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's just going to grab one of those vintage Shannon Sharp horse hats.
Yep.
And he'll just run around the stadium. Maybe he'll gallop around.
Or gallop.
And then somebody from the Broncos will have to go over there and knock it off.
Who would that be?
Cortland Sutton. No, Jerry Jeudy. Speaking of Jerry Jeudy, Shannon Sharp's going to be there.
Ooh.
You think?
Spicy.
Could be spicy.
Question,
have you looked it up?
Yeah, he's apparently told a few different stories. One is that he loves dipping sauces so much.
Like sweet and sour sauce.
Sriracha.
Sriracha dipping sauce.
The quote is, I would get like 3 sriracha sauces and I dip everything in it. My burger, my nuggets, and my fries.
Nuggets?
That's
chicken
one.
nuggets, you put in sriracha?
I don't.
A honey mustard? What do you guys
never
do?
tried
What
it.
do you do?
I do the honey mustard.
You do honey mustard?
Honey mustard.
I like a sweet and
sriracha.
sour too. It's nice.
The other one he said is that when he was playing Little League football, his coach would say that he was saucy with his juke moves. And so eventually he got this nickname A1 Sauce, Sweet Feet, and then it just shortened because that's kind of a long nickname.
Is his real name Ahmad? So A1. That makes sense. I mean, I sort of believe in this one.
Yeah, I believe that one more. I don't know.
What would be like a crazy story of how you got your name Sauce? You know?
I don't know.
Hard to think that up on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he just loves, like say he likes chicken parm a lot and he's in there making marinara sauce for it.
Yeah.
And you become known for that. You're like, this guy makes the best marinara sauce in all the town.
Yeah. Should we call him marinara or should we call him sauce?
Marinara Gardner.
He says, when I'm in my little calm mood, it's just me being a mod. The sauce is within me, so I'm always sauce.
Wow. That's kind of cool. So when he's chill, he's both Ahmad and Sauce.
Yeah.
When he's not chill, he's just Sauce.
Yeah.
The sauce is always there.
Ahmad, I don't know.
Are we going to see Ahmad or Sauce on Sunday?
Man, who could really say? Question for you, Phil. As interesting as this is.
That's probably the most interesting thing we talked about.
I don't know about that.
Other than our hair.
When you have
It's not all sunshine and daisies.
when you have something like a player going into the Ring of Fame or a reunion celebrating a Super Bowl,
Yeah.
do you think there's any
Right.
added sauce from your like as a team where you're like, oh, we gotta perform for these guys?
Yeah. I think depending on how they do it, because I remember 2015, the Broncos played the Packers. They celebrated this Super Bowl 32 team.
Yep.
And they had them come out like they introduced them out onto the field. That was hyped. I mean, those guys coming out into the stadium and like being announced like that.
Yeah.
I was hyped.
Yeah. You're like, there's Brian Habib.
Yes. It was big time.
Yeah.
I mean, that offensive line was really good.
Yeah.
Gets you fired up a little bit, Eric. I think that has, you're like, okay, there's the tradition and there's the respect and there's all this here in Denver. We got to live up to that. I think there's some of that. But if it's just like a little halftime thing or they don't really go big with the Super Bowl 32 team, then I don't think, come game day, I don't think there's much.
Got it.
I mean, for example, the Mike Shanahan was here last year before the Raiders game, spoke to the team on Saturday. I was feeling hyped up after that. So were you, Eric.
Yep.
But then come game day, that sort of feeling went away.
Yeah, because the Raiders threw
did some good
tutties.
stuff.
You still got to play well.
You got to play well. I think it just depends. Like if Shannon Sharp is in the locker room before the game going crazy.
What if Shannon Sharp plays? That could be helpful.
Yeah. How do you think Dulcich would feel?
Yeah, dude.
He's like,
chill.
right on, man.
Yeah, that's chill.
Nice. The way Shannon takes care of his body,
He could still play.
you think so?
TD looks like he could still play.
How many would he go for?
I bet Shannon could give you 10 snaps. Just put it in the red zone you get down there.
Yeah.
Shannon Sharp could still catch a tub.
So you're saying 10 catches, 1 tub if he went out there?
No, I said 10 snaps.
Oh, 10 snaps, sorry.
Yeah.
About a tub.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then what about TD?
5 carries.
How many yards?
20? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Disrespectful. I say 5 carries, 110. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Those are probably the only two from
Terrell
that
Davis
team.
is like Michael Jordan. According to the Mad Fanatic.
Yeah. Someone else was Scottie Pippen, right?
Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't really remember.
Yeah. John, I don't know that he could play.
John could not play. No. Yeah, we got some special content with John coming up. Allegedly. We'll have to see. Stay tuned for that, maybe. Eric, the last thing we talk about Russ is how do you think, if he can't get out of the pocket, he can't move like how we were expecting him to, how can the Broncos protect him a little bit better this week? Because let's face it, he's been under attack here the last couple of weeks. And some may say that when you face this so much pressure, Eric, you start seeing things a little bit. You start feeling the pressure when maybe it's not really there all the time. So
you do a great job with the some may say, and then just say it whatever you want.
Some may say.
Yeah, they might. And
I wouldn't say that, Eric.
right, of course, you would never.
I would never say
you would
that,
never say
but
that, but some might.
When I read,
you give a voice
and
to
I hear,
you give a voice to the some. You're
that's
kind
what
of
I'm
a
here
hero
for.
for that.
I'm here for the sum.
Yeah.
I'm a man of the sum.
They may say it. It's not that you've already heard it.
I've heard it. I guess I have heard it. They're saying it.
Oh, they are saying it.
Some are saying it right now.
Got it. At this moment, every 6 seconds, someone's saying it.
Says this.
Well, like I mentioned before, you might have dozed off a little bit. They got to run the ball well.
Sunshine?
That helps. If they can find a way to get into these third and manageables again, like they did last week, which was actually a positive of what they were able to accomplish, run the football well, maybe play a little bit more. People are talking about playing under center more. That's going to be hard with a hamstring injury because it requires more duress to just get out from under center. So I would think you would see a decent amount of shotgun. But you got to run the football well, quick throws, choose your spots wisely in terms of when to move him out of the pocket. And then Russ just has to be willing. I mentioned I think this is going to be kind of a battle, a low-scoring game. Russ has to maybe just decide, hey, there are times I'm not going to take these hits. I'm going to throw it away. There might be an open lane to get 4 yards and take a hit. I can't do that. I got to throw it away or stay in the pocket. I think this one is going to be a grind just because of how good their defense is and how Russ is feeling at this moment.
Yeah. I just hope that they're careful with Russ because a hamstring injury, that's the type of thing that can, one, linger the whole season, which you don't want that to happen, or it can lead to other bigger injuries. So I don't think that it's something to mess around with. And he was asked, hey, how honest are you with the trainers? Like, if it's not right, are you going to say, hey, I can't go? And he kind of laughed and said, of course.
You don't believe that?
He said, of course. Well, the Russ I know is a competitor.
Some people.
I don't think that he
plays.
I mean, Nathaniel Hackett said it's going to be his decision whether or not he plays. It's going to be Hackett's decision. Yep. So he's going to have to evaluate him. Hard to evaluate when, they're lighter practices. It's a walkthrough. So
well, just one so far. The fact that he was limited and not
that's a good sign.
DNP. Well, it's a good
because on this podcast on Monday, you said this was going to be a classic DNP, maybe limited. Another DNP.
No, I said DNP limited.
Limited, yeah. He went straight to limited.
Straight to unlimited.
Yeah, I don't know.
If he improves to full, that would make him unlimited.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
I like unlimited Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. So see, yeah, I agree with you, Eric, though. They're gonna have to do something to just make sure that he doesn't take these shots. Especially guys running full speed at the line of scrimmage, timing the snap, him getting the ball and just getting absolutely blasted.
I like how when you talk about certain plays, like your voice gets like a little bit louder.
Yeah.
Like it's like you can't contain the anger that you feel.
Yeah. Perfect call.
You're like, what should they do? And
perfect call on defense.
And he times to snap it.
It makes me upset sometimes. Yeah. That's frustrating.
Sorry.
Big third down play, Eric. It makes me frustrated.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do stuff to combat the pass rush. I think you saw them try to do that with some of that read, where they gave him the option, but that's not going to be on the table this week. So
presumably.
I don't think that he'll be able to do that. So they're going to have to time up. They're going to have to change up the snap count where guys can't just blitz. Free Willy. Free nilly. Free willy-nilly. That's what I was trying to remember. I got there.
Save the whales.
That was sort of like, where he goes over the line. Over the wall.
Yeah.
Maybe that is what I was trying to say.
That's what you're, yeah.
Yeah, they just time it. They time it. And they
wow.
The Palomalu,
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to have to do something, and these guys are going to have to block. It's an idea.
That's a pull quote right there.
That's
These
an
guys
idea.
are going to have to do something. They're going to have to block.
Billy Turner, Hackett said that he did a nice job working off the rust.
Uh-huh.
Cam Fleming seems like he's going to stay at right tackle now.
Left tackle?
Left tackle. I'm sorry. They moved him to left. Billy Turner's at right.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to work on their communication maybe a little bit. Hey, let's not let this guy just come free. You're gonna have to do that.
Sometimes I sit here and you're like peppering me with like, what do they do? What do they do? What do they do? And I'm like, well, why don't you share your opinion? And then you're like, they got a block. And I'm like,
They do.
I'm like, perfect.
Sometimes it comes down to that. You're just like, this guy's just got to do better.
Yeah.
That is sometimes you're just like, you got to do it.
Simple game.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
If you can't do it, get out.
I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to keep you here. Some team is going to hear you. Like, we got to get this guy
Into the coach's office.
Yeah.
In charge. Running the whole thing or just, what do you think?
Yes. Personnel, too. You're ready, I think.
Yeah.